screams echoed across the steppes as the Mongol horsemen thundered through another conquered city. For the men who resisted, death came quickly. But for the women left behind, survival meant facing a fate that historians would later describe as a deliberate weapon of empire. What did Genghis Khan command his armies to do with the wives and daughters of his enemies that made death seem merciful? Between 1206 and 1227, Genghis Khan built the largest contiguous land empire in human history. Stretching from Korea to Hungary, his armies conquered more than 23 million square kilometers and killed an estimated 15% of the world's population. But beyond the battlefield casualties, the Mongol strategy included a systematic approach to conquered populations that targeted women specifically. This story matters because it reveals how sexual violence was weaponized as a tool of conquest and control. Understanding this history helps us recognize similar patterns that persist in conflicts today. Genghis Khan's policies toward enemy wives began taking shape after his unification of the Mongol tribes in 1206. When cities refused to surrender, he implemented a brutal protocol. First, his army would offer terms. Surrender meant heavy taxes, but survival. Resistance meant total destruction. Visual map animation showing Mongol expansion routes. 1206 to 1227, when the city of Nishapur resisted in 1221. Mongol forces killed every living thing except for a select group of women. Historical records indicate that Genghis Khan ordered his soldiers to take enemy wives and daughters as war prizes, to be distributed among the troops or sent back to Mongolia. Document. Persian historian Otamalik Tuvanes Tarikai Jahangushe in 1226 to 1283. The women were separated by age and appearance, then assigned based on military rank. The strategic purpose was twofold. Captured women served as laborers, concubines, and mothers to future Mongol children. But more importantly, this practice destroyed the cultural and familial continuity of defeated people's source. Dr. Morris Rosabi, Columbia University. Mongols. Very short introduction to a woman taken hundreds of miles from her homeland, forced to bear children to her captor, could never rebuild her community's resistance. Lower third, genetic legacy. Modern DNA studies show 16 million men carry Genghis Khan's Y chromosome source. American Journal of Human Genetics, 2003, after the fall of Samarkand in 1220. Sources describe women being marched in columns across the steppes. They were forbidden from speaking their native languages to each other. Many died on the journey. Those who survived faced a life where they had no legal rights, no possibility of escape, and no hope of returning home. Source: Mongol Art of War by Timothy May. Those Sieti. The policy continued after Genghis Khan's death in 1227. His successors maintained the same practices during the invasions of Russia, Poland, and Hungary in the 1230s and 1240s. Chronicles from Europe describe the terror that preceded the Mongol arrival, with families sometimes choosing collective suicide over captured document. Giovanni da Pian del Carpines, Historia Mongolorum, 1247. The primary evidence comes from three types of sources. First, Mongol administrative records and the secret history of the Mongols, written around 1240, which describes distribution systems for war captives. Document. Imperial Mongol Chronicle. Second, accounts from conquered peoples, including Persian, Chinese, Russian, and European chroniclers who documented what they witnessed or heard from survivors' source. Multiple medieval chronicles compiled in the Mongol conquests in world history by Timothy Madus. Infocard. Confirmed by multiple sources versus single-source accounts. Third, modern genetic studies confirm the pattern. Research published in the American Journal of Human Genetics found that approximately 16 million men alive today carry Y chromosome markers traceable to Genghis Khan and his male relatives, representing roughly 0.5% of the male population worldwide. Source: Cyril et al., American Journal of Human Genetics, 2003. This genetic spread could only occur through systematic forced reproduction across multiple generations. However, specific numbers of women affected remain unverified. Estimates range from tens of thousands to over 1 million. But medieval population records are incorrect. Historians emphasize that these practices were common among many medieval armies, not unique to the Mongols. Captured women faced similar fates under Roman, Viking, and Crusader conquests. Source Dr. Ruth Masocara, Sexuality in Medieval Europe, 2017. This context doesn't excuse the practice, but shows it was part of a broader pattern of warfare at the time. Other scholars point out that some captured women gained significant power within Mongol society. A few became influential wives of Khans or managed a state source. The Secret History of the Mongol Queens by Jack Weatherford, 2010. Whether this represents opportunity or survival strategy remains debated. Gaps remain in our understanding of women's lived experiences. Most historical records were written by men, from the perspective of conquerors or distant observers. Direct testimony from captured women themselves is virtually non-existent in the historical record. For the individual women involved, the trauma extended across every dimension of life. They lost their homes, families, languages, and identities. Many were teenagers or younger when captured. They endured forced marches of thousands of miles, often in winter conditions, with inadequate food or shelter. The psychological dimension may have been even more devastating than the physical. These women lived knowing their families were likely dead, their cities destroyed, and their cultures erased. They bore children to men who had killed their fathers and brothers. They raised those children in a society that viewed them as property, not people. Survivors had no path home and no legal recourse. The Mongol Empire's laws protected the property rights of Mongol men but offered no protections to captured women. Resistance meant death. Compliance meant participating in the erasure of your own people. Dr. Timothy May, historian of the Mongol Empire, explains this strategy as demographic warfare. Source: interview excerpt, The Mongol Art of War, 2007. Imagine trying to preserve your culture when the next generation speaks only Mongol, worships Mongol gods, and identifies with Mongol clans. It's like cutting a tree, not at the trunk, but at the roots. This matters beyond history class. The same pattern appears in modern conflicts. The United Nations now classifies systematic sexual violence during war as a crime against humanity. Source: UN Security Council Resolution 1820, 2008. The International Criminal Court has prosecuted similar acts in Bosnia, Rwanda, and Sudan. Understanding the historical precedent helps us recognize and respond to these crimes today. Visual split-screen timeline from 1222. Present-day ICC cases. The genetic legacy also raises ethical questions. Millions of people today carry DNA from forced reproduction during the Mongol conquests. How do we memorialize trauma that lives in our genes? There's no simple answer, but denying the reality helps no one. We know Genghis Khan's armies systematically captured enemy wives and daughters as part of military strategy. We know this practice aimed to destroy cultural continuity as effectively as battlefield victories. We don't know the full scale or the voices of the women themselves. What we do know is enough to understand the deliberate cruelty involved. For historical understanding, researchers continue finding new sources as archives open and translations improve. Confidence. Medium. Several medieval documents remain untranslated from Persian and Chinese. For genetic research, expanded DNA databases may reveal more detailed patterns of the Mongol genetic legacy. Confidence. High technology improves yearly, and major universities are actively studying this. For modern policy, international courts will continue prosecuting sexual violence as a war crime, building legal precedent that condemns what the Mongols practiced. Confidence. High. This represents established international law with broad support. Visual, forward-looking info card with 3 scenarios. History's worst atrocities teach us what to prevent, not what to repeat. The women of Genghis Khan's conquests had no voice in the historical record, but understanding what happened to them honors their suffering and strengthens our resolve to protect the vulnerable in every conflict. If you want to understand how the Mongol Empire functioned beyond conquest, watch The Surprising Truth About Mongol